I've got some new bounce filters. Here we are. You can see all those. So this is what you normally get with a bounce filter. You've got the red insert there. I've gone and got myself a blue one, which is a finer mesh. And I've gone and got myself a white one, which is an even finer mesh. So this is a super filter here, really. It's going to go through all of those. Now that will take out pretty much any hop debris and most of any trobe as well. So I'm hoping it will let a little bit of yeast through still. We want a bit of yeast into the beer. One, because a couple of litres of this will be put into bottles. And we want a bit of yeast in the bottles to help carbonate it. And secondly, it's a wheat beer and you need it to be kind of yeasty. That's kind of some of the flavour really from it. So we're kind of hoping a bit of the yeast makes through that white filter, but we'll see. I bought them originally to do my bright bitters. So this is a test really, because if it comes out cloudy, we know that's good for wheat beer, but also it just needs longer in the cold crash to get rid of that. So it's had 36 hours cold crashing at 2 degrees. So we're going ahead and sanitize the equipment. I do find having a spare keg to use to sanitize things is really useful. I'm going to put a little bit of Chemsan into this keg. Here we are with the Chemsan. Look how clear that is. That's a really good pH still on that. I've been using this again and again. I always wash everything completely before I put any of this in there. And to keep this as pure and clear as possible. This is made with reverse osmosis water, so the pH is down at like 4. And that will kill pretty much most things. Gonna destroy the beer. So the beer will be immersed in CO2 and shouldn't get any problems with that then. So today I'm going to be decanting my wheat beer into this 19 litre corny keg here. I've already filled this keg with Chemsan all the way to the brim, put the lid on, and I've purged it all out again with CO2. So this keg is now purely full of CO2, completely empty and light. There might be a dribble of the Chemsan in there, but that's okay. It's phosphoric acid. It's good for beer. It's good for the pH. It's a no-rinse sanitizer. I think you're all aware of that. So today, instead, I'm using this keg here just to clean the rest of my equipment. This is not been completely full of Chemsan. There's about 5 litres in this 10 litre keg. I'm going to push that out through my bounce filters. There they are. It's just going to go straight out through that. Clean everything up. And then we'll go from there. So I've just started purging through the Chemsan through my filters. You can see it bubbling through there. There's a bit of oxygen still inside the filters. Doing it backwards obviously. It's coming out of the keg here, down through my filters backwards and into the demijohn. It's 5 litres, so actually there ain't going to be much left. I've got 2 demijohns here because I wasn't expecting it all to fit into one. So once I've purged it all out, I'm going to throw some CO2 through it. Here we are, just getting rid of that last bit of Chemsan in the keg. Here it's bubbling through. Hold the filters up so it all drains. You want to drain as much of it out as you can. There's more space for beer that way, but this stuff is a no-rinse sanitizer. I'm not worried about the bubbles. It sounds like it's all. Let's just throw a bit more CO2 through. Yeah, there's a few bubbles left in it, but not too worried about the keg. Won't be using that today for anything else. But that's all clean inside these filters. That's the main thing. I've also just run some CO2 through this cable. I know I've plugged that on the top there. You see that white thing there? It's neither black nor grey. It seems to fit both attachments. Anyway, that is going to be my outlet on the corny keg. So I've just kind of put some CO2 and sanitizer through it now. Then I'm going to Well, I'm going to go show you what I do with that. Right, here we are. So that's coming out of the corny keg. That's the outlets, that's the CO2 at the top, popping back in to the fermenter. Now, this isn't entirely sealed. It's really just for this beer. If I was going to do this to harvest the yeast, I would make sure that this connection here was absolutely tight. I've just kind of drooped this in over the top there. It is sealed actually, but this isn't a yeast harvest. This is the second time I've used this yeast. I've harvested it once. I wasn't that impressed with this particular yeast compared to others, so I'm not going to use it again. So for now, I'm just going to decant the beer. So let me just recap. We've got beer coming out the tap, going through the purge filters, coming into the beer outlet, which has a dip tube to the bottom. The CO2 inside this keg fires back up the tube and into the fermenter. Let's go. So you notice I turn the tap on, let a bit of liquid in, and then I want to empty these in turn of any, well, there's CO2 in there at the moment, but still. Oh, just dropped the whole thing actually. And we have transfer. So there's no CO2 trapped in these. I mean, you don't want oxygen in them. The CO2 in there would just slow the whole process down. But that's all come out and into the keg and coming out the top here. So this keg is now starting to fill with beer. That'll probably take about 20 minutes, I would have thought. 20 to 30 minutes. When cold beer starts going into a room temperature keg, you get condensation. So we can see here, there's a line of how far the beer is. It's only after a couple of minutes that. Here we are a couple of minutes later. You just keep an eye on it. Mark it with your finger. And every now and again just check in. See where the level is. Got me bottles here, 12 bottles. It's a 25 litre beer, I think. 19 litre keg. But there'll be some lost to Trub, so I would doubt I'll fill all of these bottles. Be nice, but I don't think we'll get that far, even with the filters. It's coming out pretty bright actually already. I mean, for a wheat beer, that's pretty clear. I probably crashed it for too long. That's 2 days in the crash. That's probably too long for a wheat beer, but that's alright. We wanted to test this system before I brew something different. It's up at 8.6 degrees now. The temperature's rising to garage temperature. We've still got about 5 minutes to go. So I've moved the outlet from the corny keg. Now as we're getting close to the top, I've attached my bottle filler. Cheap plastic bottle filler. Tube fits nicely in the end there. Shouldn't leak too much out. And now I'm just kind of purging CO2. If I leave that in there, it's dropping CO2 into the bottle. Oh, just caught it, look. There comes the beer out the top. So just trying to fill the bottles now. I think I'll have to leave you for this stage. It can get messy. Seems to be coming out very slowly. That's it. Bottle one just needs a bit of pressure on it. Alright, I'll fill these bottles. I do sanitize my tops. Let's see why not. Sometimes this needs to be put down with a bit of pressure on it. So here's one I made earlier. Just got to wait and fill that. See, that comes right at the top. Stick that over here. Get one of these little jimmies. Place it under there. There you go. I'll put a bit of pressure on it sometimes actually. Meanwhile, getting to the end here now, and I've obviously underestimated the amount of tube in the bottle here. I managed to get 4 bottles full. Another bottle here probably will be full, but I can see already the shit coming down this tube now is all the tube. So my filters will do well to stop that going into the keg, but I'd call that a day. Yeah, you can see here that right up to the top there, that is some sludge. That's wheat. Yeah, that's what wheat does. Probably a few things I can change in the fermentation process. A few things I can change in the mass process. That needs to filter through the grain bed better. So just the 5 bottles from that spare. The rest is all in this corny keg here. 19 litres full to the brim. It's the same principle. Cleaning. I just got water in this keg at the moment. Just washing these out. Sending it back through. Pushing all that shit back down the pipe. Into this fermenter, which needs a good wash. Again, probably about 5 litres in there. So, and then I'll fire some star sand back through as well. That's the CO2. I generally use the bottles just to save it for 6 months or a year to drink at a later date, see how long it lasts. Because beer in kegs for me don't last very long. It ends up going down my throat. So there's my corny. There's a 10 litre. I've got 4 of them. I've got a couple of these 5 litres as well. I recommend looking at the Dark Farm website. They've got some good kegs and some good gear. I can show you one of the other things I got from them. In this fridge over here. The back here, you see this little tap here. It's got the 16 gram CO2 canisters on it. Very portable. You can get a 10 litre version of that as well. I generally find that you'll need 3 to 4 of those canisters, those CO2 canisters, to dispense all of this beer.